Morning. Good morning. Welcome to a voting meeting of the House Finance Committee. Happy October. And we have two new members in the committee. Since our last meeting, just last week, Representative Jeannie McNeil and Representative Dave Deloso have moved on to other committees. And we are joined today by our newest members, Representative Keith Harris of District 195 in the Fairmount section, Strawberry Mansion in Philadelphia, and Representative Justin Fleming of Dauphin County, District 105. So welcome to the Finance Committee. I'd like to ask our senior committee legislative assistant to call the roll. Lori Smith.
Chairman Samuelson.
Here.
Sapita Freites.
Will be vote by designation.
Fiedler.
Here.
Fleming. Frail.
Will be vote by designation.
Gallagher. Harris. Kenyatta.
Will be vote by designation.
Mirsky.
Vote by designation.
Rabb.
Vote by designation.
Scott.
Here.
Smith Waddell.
Vote by designation.
Waxman. Webster.
Vote by designation.
Chairman Griner.
Here.
Bernstein.
Vote by designation.
Brown. Fritz. Jones.
Vote by designation.
Kephart. Kutz.
Vote by designation.
Mako. McCreary. Rader. Rossi. You have enough for a quorum, sir.
Thank you. All accounted for. And I'd also like to welcome Executive Director on the Republican side, Nicole Seidel, who's joining us from the Professional Licensure Committee. Our Executive Director, Rob Gartner, is not here because he and his wife just had a baby this week. So Nicole's going to be helping us for one day, but then she's moving on back to her own committee tomorrow. I'd like to start by bringing up, we have 4 bills on the agenda today. I'd like to start by bringing up House Bill 2536. I need a motion to bring up House Bill 2536. Representative Sappy, it's moved by Representative Scott. Second. Representative Fleming. We had a public hearing on House Bill 2536 on September 18th, and I believe Representative Sappy is online. She testified at our public hearing. And I'd like to ask our Executive Director, Mark Foreman, to give a brief description of the legislation.
Thank you. House Bill 2536 is a constitutional amendment to enable the General Assembly to provide statutory authority for local governments to establish long-time owner-occupant programs.
Thank you. And during the hearing, we heard that the state constitution allows special tax provisions for counties of the first class and counties of the second class, allows the General Assembly to pass legislation for the long-time owner-occupied tax incentive. The legislature over the years has allowed county of the first class, county of the second class, and just recently, city of Pittsburgh within the county of the second class. This is a constitutional amendment that would open that up and allow this long-term owner-occupied tax incentive for other counties in Pennsylvania, all other counties, subject to approval by the General Assembly. I'd like to open it up for committee discussion. Representative Keith Griner and then Greg Scott. Chair Griner. We'll go on with Representative Scott first, and then Chair Griner has closing comments.
So thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank Representative Sappy as well as my colleague from Montgomery County, Representative Cerisi, for representing the Montgomery County delegation in these negotiations on this bill. House Bill 2536 as we all know, amends the Pennsylvania Constitution to give this option to all local governments, not just a select few. And my community could benefit extremely well from this tool. This is providing local governments with one more tool to help control the price of property taxes, which will keep families in their homes while allowing them to work with their own budgets and their own unique needs. And I think this is great. Again, this is not a mandate. Thank Representative Sappi, Representative Cerisi, and all my other colleagues who worked on this bill, not forcing local municipalities to do an unfunded mandate, but giving them an option, giving them another tool in their toolkit to help working families in Pennsylvania. This is what I came to the legislature to do, to make sure that working families every single day across this Commonwealth have an extra added tool to keep money in their pockets, grow their families, and live in a house that they can afford with dignity and provide for their families. So thank you again. I look forward to voting yes on House Bill 2536.
Thank you, Representative Scott. I should have mentioned Representative Sappi is the prime sponsor, but she has 3 co-primes, Representative Cerisi, Representative O'Mara, and Representative Prokopiak. Are there any other members who would like to comment on House Bill 2536? And I know I have Chair Greiner. Representative Keith Harris.
Good morning. I come from a city that we have a lot of construction going on, trying to battle that. Gentrification throughout the city of Philadelphia as it's reconstructed after long-term housing dilapidation for various causes. So it'll be an honor to vote on this bill, and it's much needed. And it's a pleasure just to vote on this bill. And I hope my colleagues and Philadelphia delegation and also in the General Assembly itself welcome to vote on this bill. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Harris. Any other members? Chair Greiner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know the hearing last week, I did express some concern, and I still have concern about just the loop ID in general. I think that although you can say that it provides an arrow in the quiver, and I know I've worked on property tax. I've been here 12 years and been on finance most of those years, and have worked on property tax bills and reform. And unfortunately, I actually think this bill will end up hurting the working class, kind of work opposite, to be honest. What's going to happen is people like Nicole, who just got married, have to buy a house. And when we freeze the property tax rates for seniors, then what's going to happen is that's going to be there's going to be a tax shift. And, it's our young people that are going to have to pick up the burden on this, in my opinion. I will say, though, it is complicated issue. We've passed a bill that went over to the Senate about 6, 7, 8 years ago to try to deal with property tax reform and issues, and it seems like we have to work around the edges here. But I just wanted to go on record that when people talk about property tax reform, somebody's ox is going to get gored if this passes. There's no question. I don't know quite who it is in the end, but it'll happen. And when people want property tax reform, even elimination, there's going to be a shift, and that needs to sink in people's heads that somebody's going to have to pay for for these school taxes. And of course, that's a whole ball of wax right now too, with going on with the court decision as well. But so I just want to go on record that I know it would have to pass in 2 consecutive sessions. I do have serious concerns about it moving forward. I do think we need to look at that, despite the fact we have Pittsburgh and Philly, and I guess Allegheny County has the option. And that's one thing too. It's an option that I'll vote yes to move it forward, but I do think there needs to be further discussions, and I think there needs to be thorough thought on just what this bill accomplishes and who's going to end up paying the burden in the end. Because I think we need to help our seniors, which I think this bill will help, but somebody's going to have to make up for the difference, and our young people are leaving our state, and this doesn't help that. This doesn't help that. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair Greiner. And as we discussed during the public hearing, Yes, it is a constitutional amendment, so that it would involve 2 legislative sessions. We will have further discussions. Also, it's the legislature would have the opportunity to decide whether or not to pass this, to allow that option for local governments in 3rd through 8th class counties. And finally, the local government would have the option of do they want to enact a loop program or not. And obviously, if they do decide to do that, they have to balance their budget. But it gives them a local option, as I think one of the other representatives, Representative Scott, said, it's another tool that local governments can use to provide property tax relief. So if there's no other comments on the Finance Committee, I would ask our we did a motion. We had a motion second.
No votes.
Are there any negative votes on House Bill 2536? Seeing none, we will record a unanimous. Okay. Should I call a roll? Okay, we need a roll call vote. Representative Lori Smith, Senior Committee Legislative Assistant, can you please call the roll?
Chairman Samuelson,
Yes.
Sapita Freites,
Yes by designation.
Fleming, Fiedler,
Yes by designation online.
Frail,
Yes by designation.
Gallagher, Harris, Kenyatta,
Yes by designation.
Mursky,
Yes by designation.
Rab,
Yes by designation.
Scott,
And he's online.
Yes.
Waddell,
Yes by designation.
Waxman, Webster,
Yes by designation.
Chairman Griner,
Yes.
Bernstein,
Yes by designation.
Brown, Fritz, Jones,
Yes by designation.
Kephart, Kutz,
Yes by designation.
Mako,
Yes.
McCreary,
Yes.
Rader, Rossi,
Thank you. 24 votes in favor, 1 vote opposed. House Bill 2536 is approved by the Finance Committee. Next, I'd like to ask for a motion to bring up House Bill 2565, sponsored by Samuelson. Is there any motion to bring up my bill? Representative Greg Scott, second. Thank you, Representative Keith Harris. I am glad we got new members in the committee. I have Executive Director Mark Foreman giving a brief description of House Bill 2565.
Thank you, Chairman. House Bill 2565 adjusts the requirements to qualify for the semiconductor manufacturing tax credit to reflect realistic industry standards and provides a credit for early stage semiconductor manufacturing.
Thank you. We're going to ask the committee for comments. I know there were 2 amendments filed by Representative Kephart. I believe Representative Kephart is going to withdraw those amendments, but I think he would like to speak on the legislation.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, I am withdrawing my amendments on this bill, only because this is already an established tax credit program. It's not adding one. I guess my point on the one amendment was just to point out of how many tax credits we've done in this committee. Every time we turn around, we're adding another tax credit, making the tax code more complicated. And we are picking and choosing winners and losers in this state for tax preference. I think it would be better to lower the tax rate for everyone, for all businesses, not just the chosen few that politicians decide which ones are going to win and lose. Anyhow, that is all my point on that one amendment was. But because it's already a tax credit program, I will pull it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Kephart. Does anybody else have comments on the bill? The EDGE tax credits in 2022 as part of the tax code. And we have a semiconductor tax credit that has not been utilized in the last 2 years. The $10 million for this tax credit is set aside in the budget. So adjusting the parameters for how that tax credit is used will not affect the budget because the $10 million is already accounted for in the budget. The tax credit that was created in 2022 was for very large companies, a minimum of 800 jobs. This legislation that I'm proposing would change it in 2 ways to allow a lower number of jobs, 100 jobs for a project to qualify, and also $20 million in capital investment. It also carves out part of the money for early stage companies that could have a minimum of a tax credit of about $100,000 a year, and that would have a smaller investment of set aside $2 million of the $10 million for early stage companies. We have early stage semiconductor companies all across Pennsylvania, and I want to propose this to allow that tax credit to be used and encourage job creation all across Pennsylvania. Any other comments, Representative Chair Greiner?
Just real quickly, I want to thank Representative Kephart for his comments. I think because it's an existing program, and right now where we're at in Pennsylvania with as far as trying to encourage business growth, we do work through the tax credits. I do wish, and at some point we make the effort here in the Commonwealth, but I do think we need to try to do more because it does feel uncomfortable picking winners and losers. I will say that, but it's an existing program. I'm voting affirmatively for the bill.
If there are no comments, I would ask Lori Smith to have a roll call vote on House Bill 2565.
Chairman Samuelson,
Yes.
Sapita Freites,
Yes by designation.
Fleming, Fiedler,
Yes by designation.
Frail,
Yes by designation.
Gallagher, Harris, Kenyatta,
Yes by designation.
Mursky,
Yes by designation.
Rab,
Yes by designation.
Scott,
Yes.
Waydell,
Yes by designation.
Waxman, Webster,
Yes by designation.
Chairman Greiner,
Yes.
Bernstein,
Yes by designation.
Brown,
Yes by designation.
Fritz, Jones,
Yes by designation.
Kephart, Kutz,
Yes by designation.
Mako,
Yes.
McCurry,
Yes.
Rader, Rossi.
House Bill 2565 has been approved by the Finance Committee by a vote of 24-1. Now I'd like to ask for a motion. We have 2 related bills. House Bill 1994, sponsored by Representative Briggs, and a Senate version of the legislation, Senate Bill 1051, sponsored by Senator Hutchinson. I'd like to call up a motion to bring up the Briggs bill, House Bill 1994. So moved by Chair Greiner, second by Representative Scott. Brief description by our committee executive director, Mark Foreman.
Thank you, Chairman. House Bill 1994 reforms the Board of Finance and Revenue tax appeals process.
Thank you. And I'm offering an amendment, and you had the amendment in your packets yesterday afternoon. I have a reprint of that amendment with 2 small changes. The one that we're calling up is amendment number 5771. Do I have a motion to bring up the amendment? Representative Fleming. Second. Representative Mako. And we're offering a substitution amendment with the 2 minor changes. with the concurrence of both chairs in terms of bringing it up. The amendment itself, Representative Briggs has offered this legislation several months ago. Since then, there have been negotiations with Representative Tim Briggs, the prime sponsor, the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue, the Department of the Treasury, and the Institute of Certified Public Accountants. Those negotiations have gone over several months. Part of this negotiation has resulted in this amendment. The substance of the amendment extends from 60 days to 90 days the appeal window for personal income tax issues, and also allows an appeal at 120 days if there's good cause, and there's a definition of good cause in the amendment. The amendment also provides a settlement process, including the hiring of a settlement officer that would be used by the Board of Finance and Revenue, and that process is described over several pages of the amendment, the parameters, and exactly how that would work. It requires a final report. So those are three things related to the Board of Finance and Revenue. We did add a change related to connected to the medical marijuana legislation in the tax code in the summer. On July 11th, we passed a provision and was signed into law allowing growers and processors to deduct business expenses similar to all other businesses in Pennsylvania. When that legislation moved through our committee last spring, it was growers, processors, and dispensaries. In the tax code negotiations, the word dispensary was left out, so this amendment adds that back in as the part of the substance of the amendment. One more thing, the two minor changes, there's a word changed. The word terminate is negotiate, which is what was intended. And at the very end of the amendment, you can see on the final page, the effective date is 90 days for the provisions about the Board of Finance and Revenue, and immediate for the part about the medical marijuana dispensaries. There's the description of the amendment, and I call on Chair Greiner and then also any other member who wants to comment.
Maybe I'll use my latitude as chairman to kind of talk about the bill as well, moving, kind of segueing into it, because they're kind of one and the same. First of all, I want to thank Chairman Briggs for his work on this. It was diligent. You know, I know it can be challenging to work with. You know, you work with revenue, you work with treasury, you're working with the business community, and this took a while to come up with. And I just want to commend him and, of course, Senator Hutchinson as well for bringing this forward. I think this is a step in the right direction. I worked in public accounting for over 22 years with business, and can say that I do think I think we need this. I think we need to have the opportunity for businesses to sit down and like we said before. Kind of another arrow in the quiver to be able to maybe expedite some of these decisions where there's some what I would say conflict or disagreement. As far as the amendment goes, I think the bill's outstanding. I agreed to the amendments. I think people know I voted no on the marijuana before. I have concerns about that because it's still an illegal drug at the federal level. Did get part of the tax code. I would rather not have seen that amendment be part of this. As a matter of fact, my preference would have been seeing it go to the House floor, but we'll do it here. And I know that maybe I'm somewhat an outlier anyway on that marijuana issue, but I mean, the reality is I just wish it was maybe handled a bit differently. I know we sometimes make mistakes in bill drafting, and I completely understand that, but I wish this maybe would have been handled a little bit differently. But nonetheless, I will support the amendment.
Any other comments on the legislation, the amendment? And I should note, Representative Tim Briggs has joined us at the committee meeting. And the legislation that we talked about in the springtime on the medical marijuana, the tax deduction, was sponsored by a former member of this committee, Representative Jeannie McNeil.
I don't think so.
Okay. Are there any? We also have Representative Cepeda Freitas joining us here at the committee meeting. Are there any negative votes on Amendment 5771? Seeing none, the amendment passes unanimously. Do I have a motion to bring up the bill 1994?
So moved.
Representative Keith Griner. Representative Greg Scott. For the record, I have you both bringing up the bill and also bringing up the amendment. Thank you both. Are there any negative votes on House Bill 1994 sponsored by Representative Briggs? I'm sorry, before that, is there any discussion on the bill as amended? Any negative votes? House Bill 1994 as amended passes the committee unanimously. And we also, it is October, there are 8 session days left in October. We also have a Senate version of changes related to the Board of Finance and Revenue. Senator Hutchinson, chair of the Senate Finance Committee, has put that legislation forward. I would like to also offer the Hutchinson version of the legislation to have a Senate bill, but also amend it with the negotiated language that Representative Tim Briggs has worked on, with those 4 changes and the 2 technical changes that I mentioned. Same description as we had earlier. But I need a motion to bring up the bill, Hutchinson bill, Representative Kephart, seconded by Representative Fleming, and the Samuelson amendment, which is (5772) is the redraft amendment we're bringing up for a vote. Need a motion to bring up Amendment 5772. Motion, Representative Fleming. Second, Representative Cepeda Freitas. Okay. All right. So the description we had on the Briggs legislation and the Samuelson amendment is largely similar, so I'm not going to call on Mark Foreman. Is there any discussion on the Amendment 5772? No discussion. Are there any negative votes on Amendment 5772? The amendment passes unanimously. And on the bill in chief, the Hutchinson bill, Senate Bill 1051, as amended by Amendment 5772. Motion by Representative Keith Griner. Okay. Representative Griner, I call on you for remarks.
Like I said, I'm going to make the motion on this bill as well. Like I said, it's a companion bill, and just appreciate the hard work that all the parties put into this.
Thank you very much, Chair Griner. Are there any negative votes on Senate Bill 1051? 1051 as amended a couple minutes ago by this committee. The House Finance Committee reports Senate Bill 1051 as amended unanimously. With now no further business, we will have another voting meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. This meeting is adjourned.